Oh, good evening. All right, so we're here at my old Ashford spinning wheel. And this spinning wheel is similar to what you're encountering, where you're getting a lot of over twist. So I have my drive, which is on my big whorl. And also here is the fast whorl, slow whorl. And then you have your bobbin, which is controlled by the fishing line and a spring, and your tensioner here. And so what you want is you want to back off your tension so your tension spring just kind of sags. So there's no tension on the bobbin at all. If I have a lot of tension on the bobbin, I can't turn it. Knock that tension off there, I can turn it. So you're going to want a long leader or a long bit of thread. Thread it on to your setup. Get it through your the orifice, and I've got a lot of hooks here. So let's see here. Let's get this through the orifice here. So now I've just got some string here. I'll move this over just a wee bit so you can see that. I'll move my wheel over just a little bit too, but you can still see basically all the components here. So you got your bobbin and your whorl, your main drive adjustment tensioner, which tilts the whole thing, and then your bobbin tensioner here. And what you want is you want it loose, so I can literally just sit here and I'm just holding it in my hand and not letting any thread go anywhere, and it's just going to twist it, but it's not taking my thread anywhere. And so what tends to happen is you have lots of tension and it wants to just take it up, twist it, and you don't want this too tight either. You want it just loose enough to be able to spin with no tension. So everything is just kind of light and loose. And so you want to be able to pull back like this while it's running. So just enough tension to start taking up thread, but still enough tension where I can still pull it back without it breaking. And I'll take some of that tension off. Here, Missy, come here. Come. Okay, Missy wants up. Missy wants up on the bed. There you go. Yeah, you just go ahead and lay down there, Missy. So I'm going to take some thread, take some roving here, and we'll get started with this. Let me unwind it. So you start out with everything really loose, both the main drive and your bobbin. Is a good place to start, and if you've never done this before. And that's what I would show anybody. So, it's my roving. Nice and loose, it's thin. So I spin really thin, I don't spin super thick. And so as I treadle, I'll get my thread onto here. And it looks like I have just enough to where it'll feed it on. And sometimes the weight of the bobbin itself is enough without much tension at all. You still want that line around it, which gives just a little bit of tension, a little friction. And it's that friction that you use. And then I just feed it on. You can see how fast I'm spinning here. So let me try and get this in a little better position here, so you can see without seeing all my junk in the room here. And there's my little missy. So I've got this, my spring is kind of loose here, but there's still a little tiny bit of tension on here. And just enough, and I can also pull back. Even while I'm spinning, I can pull back. Pull back. If I let go of the tension, it'll just wind right on. And then you need to learn to draft to match the speed of what you're doing with your treadling. Yeah, so I find if you find that you're getting a lot of twist and you can't control it too well, give a little back twist, give a little bit of back twist to the thread, and it'll open it up and it'll allow you to draft more out. So that's what I do here, and so it's just a very light tension. Now see if I can loosen my main drive to where it just wants to slide, and it's barely turning at all. I can just hold it and stop it. That's not tight enough, so I'm going to tighten it up till it just starts, and then leave it there. And I can still pull back so I don't have too much tension. See, now I put too much tension on my bobbin, and now it doesn't spin at all, it just slides. That's showing me that I have good tension here. So you don't need a lot of tension. People put way too much tension on their wheels. So if your main drive is loose enough to run it well and spin it, and then you put too much tension and it stops it, you're good. Then you just back it off until it goes, and you should have enough to where it'll take it up when you give it up. So you want to be in control of it, so you don't want it to take it from you, you want to give it. And I always do just a tiny little back twist, which opens those fibers up to allow me to draft, and you also hold your fiber really fairly loose. You don't grip it like a gorilla. Otherwise, it doesn't work too well. And my experience here is 6 years worth of experience, and I use this adjustment technique on any of the wheels I use, including the double drive. Double drive's a little different, but not much. Double drive, you're just adjusting a single drive band that runs both bobbin and whorl at the same time. One's just going slower than the other. And you still want it loose enough to where you can draw back on it, and it doesn't break your thread, and that's thin thread, and so it doesn't break the thread. And so if I want, I can make my yarn thicker just by grabbing more and allowing more into my draft zone here. And I use a yarn gauge to check my thickness of my singles. Kind of learn how to do that, and it helps keep consistency on the singles. And you can slow down, you can treadle slow, you can treadle fast. Just, it's a heel to toe. You can use your heel to help on these wheels, and it helps. And then here, I've got a little thicker yarn, and then I'm going to pull back, and I'm going to double it up, and then I'm going to check to see what my yarn looks like once it's plied. That'll give me a rough indication of how thick my yarn's going to be. Right there. And that's really all. But since I spin thin, I'm just going to start drawing it out thin again. And this is just a test here. And I test a little bit. I'll spin some, and then I'll pull it off. I'll wrap it on my hand. It's called Andean ply. And you can wrap it on your hand and then ply it off of your hand, and see what your finished yarn looks like, and do short samples, and that gives you an idea of what you're doing. So you're not going to spin a whole bunch all at once and then find out that all of that you spun is just junk. So work on a little bit, spin a little bit, figure it out, get a feel for it, and then try again. And each time, if you need to make a change, do one change at a time and not multiple changes at a time. And most of the issues are making sure all your moving parts are oiled. You know, a little dab of oil here and there, and also on your bobbin shaft. Make sure your tension is good. Work on your tension, both of these. You start out loose to where it just slides for the main one, and then just spin it until it grabs. And then you do the same with your bobbin tension. And also make sure that your uprights are square, so your flyer and stuff is sitting square in the plastic holder or the leather bearing, and it should just spin. And when you stop spinning and let go, it just keeps going for a little bit. And so that's spinning all on its own. I'm not treadling there. And so you want nice loose, everything just loose enough, but you don't want it like so loose everything's just wobbling all over the place. But you might find some wobbling on your machine like this. So I'm noticing I probably have a couple screws that are a little bit loose on this machine, but it's not that big of a deal. And just give it a little kick with your hand in the direction that you want to go. So typically spinning wool and cotton, stuff like that, is done clockwise for your singles, and then counterclockwise for your plying. And it's just the opposite when you use flax for linen. Spin it counterclockwise and then ply it clockwise. And that's kind of typical. No hard, fast rules, but know that if you spin singles, like on flax or linen or anything, if you give it to someone else to finish, you want to kind of stick with the standard rule of thumb. So wool would be clockwise for your singles. Linen would be counterclockwise for your singles. And that way, if you give it to somebody and they're going to apply it for you, or they're going to apply it themselves for any reason, somebody in the family, a friend, whatever, they'll know which direction to go so they don't mess it up. Anyway, so, and because I have everything loose, I can go really super thin, just mega thin, and probably not break anything. This is like super lace right here. This is just mega thin, but it'll work. And if you have everything too tight, you're not going to be able to do this. And there again, there's another thin yarn, and that's very thin. That's very lace weight thin. And that might be enough. I'm hoping that's enough. If you still have any more questions, give a shout out, and we'll continue. So there's lesson 1 for you.